Hey, it's New Thought Talk. I'm your host, the Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center located in Fresno, California. Fresno, the heart of the Central Valley, and the Central Valley, the heart of the great state of California. And welcome to the show. Welcome back to the show. We have been working through a book that Dr. Holmes wrote years ago called This Thing Called Life. And today we're going to take up, I believe we left off around the end of chapter 3, so we're going to start chapter 4, and we'll see how much we get covered today. I'm glad you're with us. I hope you started your day by claiming the gift that was given to you by the divine principle, first cause, God, source, the thing itself, and you made that claim on this day as your gift, and you intend and intentioned to experience this day at the highest and greatest degree of livingness. That is your purpose for being here. You know, I heard, I don't remember who it was I was listening to. I listened to so many people, but I heard someone talk about the individual beingness of each of us. We're gifted with potential gifts that are ours exclusively, if you will, that can be found and expressed nowhere else in creation as it can be expressed through us. And it really is it's our responsibility to develop those gifts and to utilize them. And the thing is, we have everything that we can need, want, desire at hand for our development of them. And that's part of the divine givingness of God to each and every one of us. God, the source, the power, the presence, the infiniteness, the life. It is the one life. And Dr. Holmes oftentimes would say there's one life. That life is God. That life is my life now. That one life. And so this book, this thing called life, talks about that. And before I get into chapter 4, I want to go, it's the beginning of the year, and most religious science CSL organizations start the year off by going through the introductory chapters in the Science of Mind, what we call the textbook. And the chapter 2 is called The Way It Works. And on that page, on page 35, universal mind or spirit is God, Holmes writes. And he says, there is a universal mind, spirit, intelligence that is the origin of everything. It is first cause. It is God. This universal life and energy finds an outlet in and through all that is energized and through everything that lives. There is one life back of everything that lives. There is one energy back of all that is energized. This energy is in everything. There is one spirit back of all expression. That is the meaning of the mystical saying, in him we live, move, and have. In him we live and move and have our being, from Acts 17:28. He says, the life which we live is universal life expressing through us. Else, how could we live? Our thought and our emotion is the use we make consciously or unconsciously of this original creative thing. Our thought and our emotion. Thoughts and emotions are really kind of interesting things. We talk about them a lot. They're very intertwined. They're very connected. And yet, we think of them oftentimes as separate things. But in truth, there can't be an emotion without a thought, either before or after. And there can't be a thought without some kind of emotion attached, even if it's, a very low-key, non-energized emotion. There's still an emotion that is tied to the thoughts that we think. As we think, we create these emotions. Our trend of thinking, our trend of thought, is extremely creative. There is a law that responds, always. And the law responds at the level of our belief and at the level of the emotion that we attach to the thought. And so as we move into chapter 4 today, Dr. Holmes says, the one who learns to control his or her thinking learns how to control their destiny. We are bound by our own thought world. Nothing can save us but ourselves. The individual who will learn how to consciously to change his or her thinking process can remold his or her destiny. One life. That life is God. That life is our life now. But it is our thought that is directive in our individual expression and experience of this thing called life. And, it's amazing. We don't come with an owner's manual. We don't come with a direction book, but we come with consciousness. We come with the inner beingness of the divine, whether you want to call it God within or Christ within, the Christ consciousness. It sits at the core, the center of our being, and it awaits us recognizing it, turning to it, and bringing it forth in our life on a creative basis, consciously directed, that we may live our life utilizing the incredible individualness of our gifts in our demonstration of this life. Unfortunately, most of us have no clue. Society tells us, school tells us that, what you see is what you get. Now, if you study hard, if you work hard, you have a fair chance of being successful, but it's not guaranteed. And, we hear these things. A penny saved is a penny earned, and, a rolling stone gathers no moss. And some of you may be too young to, even if you're in the millennial generation, you may be a little too young to have heard those things. But they're all platitudes that kind of point into a direction of being stimulating in the way that we react or respond in our life experience. But the great gift of new thought to the world, and in particular science of mind and spirit, is the gift of the realization of, one, the power that is available to us, the responsibility that we have to express our life at the greatest and highest degree that we do that, and the effect that as we do that on the life around us, and sometimes even beyond the close proximity, even beyond out and further out, like ripples from a rock thrown into a very calm body of water. It goes out and it affects so much. We have that available to us. But there's things that we have to understand. There's responsibilities that come with the power, if you will. Today we have a large part of the collective consciousness that tells us that there are victims in the world, and victims are helpless, we're told. And the truth is that each and every one of us has available to us everything that we could need, want, and desire to move from wherever we're at, regardless of what we think about our wherever we're at, out into a life of greater enjoyment, peace, harmony, abundance, prosperity, health, relationship. But we have to know that that's available to us. And we have to know that we have at our beck and call the means to utilize what is available to us. It's like giving a toddler keys to a big semi-truck. That truck may take them down the road, but until they grow in consciousness and a few other things to, understand what that key and how that key relates to that truck, it's basically useless. Our purpose, for those of us that have lived our life in new thought, in science of mind and spirit, among other things, is not to be evangelists for this incredible faith and philosophy, this way of life, but to be a light, to be an example. And it's amazing when you live and you allow that light that exists within you to grow and shine and express. And when you begin to live a life of conscious living, and you understand the tools that are available to you that await you to put into use. But once you do, people begin to notice. And in their noticing, oftentimes there is curiosity. And it's not about having someone change their faith beliefs. It's about informing them that even as they believe, that there are principles that they can put into practice in their life to live their life at a higher, greater degree, and still believe spiritually in their faith practices as they do. It's not about, like I say, it's not about evangelizing. It's about allowing our lights to shine and then sharing the tools that allow that shining to take place. We're going to take our first break. I'll see you shortly when we come back.
When you need to get fit, contact Gary Torres, IFBB Pro, specializing in weight loss, body transformations, and contest prep. Email Gary Torres 5336 at yahoo.com.
Hey, I'm Chris DeVold. Tune in every Friday night on CentralValleyTalk.com when I bring you Sex, Drugs, Chris DeVold, where I'll give you 3 guesses on what we talk about. And I also vow to bring you 1 live local music act a week. So tune in every week because you never know what kind of music you're going to hear right here on CentralValleyTalk.com.
The Space Colony Journals are an epic tale of a family's struggle to survive. Meet the courageous women and dangerous men who dare to carve a home on the alien world of Vensug. Get your copy today. Available on Amazon and Gail Daly's FineArt.com.
You enter this door with expired tags. Beyond is another dimension, a dimension of regulations, a dimension of long waits. You have reached the registration zone. What looks like an ordinary shop is actually Mitchell Smog, located in the heart of the Tower District, a few minutes from the DMV. Mitchell Smog offers your vehicle a STAR-certified smog inspection. So remember Mitchell Smog when you need to pass through the registration zone.
Contact Sarah Hernandez of June and Matte Photography to schedule your portrait, engagement, wedding, or next family photo session. But that's not all. Sarah is also your personal brandographer, helping you ditch the stock photos and get images that sell. Call 559-412-3721. Visit juneandmattephoto.com and follow Sarah on Instagram and Facebook.
Hello everyone, my name is Miss G. I offer fun and affordable promotion and advertisement on my talk show. It is called Fresno Vibes. We talk, we play awesome music. I also feature a bunch of different bartenders from different places. I like to have restaurants. I like to have any event, any kind of fun stuff. Contact me at rmgmissg@gmail.com and we will have so much fun and we will promote your business, promote your event right here on my show. So contact me. We'll have fun. Thank you.
Give your child the tools to succeed. The Yergubian Academic Center offers one-on-one and group educational lessons by appointment. 90% of our students show significant improvement in their academics in just 3 months. Students of the Yergubian Academic Center have gone on to UCLA, UC San Diego, Yale, Stanford, and many more prestigious universities. Schedule a tutoring session today. Call 559-437-3973.
CentralValleyTalk.com.
Welcome back to New Thought Talk. I'm your host, the Reverend Steve Walling from the Spiritual Awareness Center in Fresno, California. So, moving on. Holmes writes, he says, negative forces operating in our lives will die a natural death if we practice the habit of being disinterested in them. And that's true, but let me unpack that a little bit more. The idea of all we have to do is be disinterested is very easily said, but as we live our day-to-day life experience, can be a little bit daunting sometimes. And I don't mean that to plant any, seeds in the subconscious mind, but as I mentioned earlier, when we consider individuals and this, they run the gamut that consider themselves victims. It's not about socioeconomic. It can be emotional. It can be relational. It can be health related. Anybody that is suffering in any way and feels helpless in their suffering considers themselves a victim. Like I said, it can be in any area. We all know, or may have all experienced times in our life when we have felt like we were kind of in that place. When you begin to learn, understand, and embody an idea that speaks that to you that there is a greater truth than limitation. There is a greater truth than being a victim. At the level that you can grasp that, embody that, believe in it, at that level you begin to take control of your life. And it makes no difference where you're at. But the subconscious mind, it can be a powerful tool for our self-bondage if we allow it to be. And it takes choices, decisions on our part to make changes. It takes commitment on our part to continue with those changes. And when life comes at us at the speed of life, and it does, and it seems overwhelming, we need to go back to the concept. I like to quote Reverend Johnny Coleman out of Christ Universal Temple. She was the founder of the Universal Foundation for Better Living. She's no longer with us, but she had a saying, and it went something to the effect that we have a bigger God. No matter what life brings at us, we have a bigger God. In the early stage, when we're toddlers, if you will, in our new way of thinking, that can be a little daunting. We may fall, we may scuff ourselves a little bit, but we continue to get up and move forward and continue to work to realize that we have a bigger God. And when those thoughts come into our mind, as they're likely to do, that says, oh my gosh, you've got this, or you've got no control, or you are left alone. No, that's not true. I have a bigger God. No matter what life brings, I have a bigger God, because life itself is nothing more than a minor expression of this bigger God. God, the creator, the universal force, energy behind all that is. So no matter what life comes at us, what life brings at us, God's bigger. And we are, God expressed as us, we have a direct line, if you will, right to the source. And at the level, and this was one of the things that Jesus was so strong in his teaching about, that it's done unto us as we believe. Now, that word belief can be broken down also into the word understanding. And it was Emmett Fox who said in, I think it was Sermon on the Mount, he said, there's no such thing as undemonstrated understanding. So if you're new to New Thought, Science of Mind and Spirit, or if you've been around for a while and life doesn't seem to be demonstrating what it is that you have been treating for example, start treating for greater understanding, because there's a law. The law always responds, but it can only respond to us at the level of our belief. It's done unto us as we believe. Reverend J. Neal had a saying, and it goes something to the effect that the highest level of our ability to demonstrate is limited by the lowest opinion or belief that we have of any person, place, or thing. If we allow ourselves to get caught up we tend to want to compartmentalize ourselves sometimes. Well, we've got my spiritual life here, I got my work life here, I got my relationship life here, I've got my social life here, and what I do in one, it's like what happens in Vegas stays in doesn't work that way. What happens in your life, at any part of your life, is felt and expressed and has an effect in every part of your life. So, going back here again, when Holmes says, negative forces operating in our life will die a natural death if we practice the habit of being disinterested in them. What he's talking about by this habit of disinterestedness is turning, if you will, a blind eye to whatever those thoughts are, to denying them, to rebutting them with a greater truth. I have a bigger God. And then he says, all outward forms of behavior are automatic results of inner mental picturings. And this is where we really kind of get down to it. Thoughts and emotion, okay, they're inextricably tied together. Fear thoughts create fear emotions. Affirming thoughts create affirming emotions. But either way, those emotions are tied to our imagination. And we may not be able to pull up an image in our imagination, if you will, but we can sure experience a fear as a reality in our life. One of the things, if you happen to have a copy of Living the Science of Mind, Dr. Holmes, in one of his lectures in the latter part of the book, he says that faith is our belief in what it is that we desire to have happening, and fear is absolute belief in what we fear will happening. And I'm kind of paraphrasing. If you believe in your fear, it's done unto you as you believe, and it lives in your imagination. So if you've been experiencing life at that level, at that basis, it's a habit, but you can break that habit. And as you become aware of your allowing that habit to demonstrate itself in your mind, that you can say, wait a second, I'm not going to buy. I'm not part of that anymore. I'm going to the Alcoholics Anonymous, if you will, of breaking thinking habits, Thinking Anonymous or whatever. And I'm changing that. And you know what? One of the things that has been a gift through the AA program is that when you are, as an alcoholic, when you are at a point where you feel temptation coming upon you, you have a sponsor or someone that you can call that can talk you through it or sit with you or whatever. If you are not part of a spiritual New Thought community, I highly recommend that you become part of one. And if you're not in an area where there's something nearby, I think findacenter.com is still working out there. They're a little dated sometimes in some of their contact information, but you can go online, go to Find a Center, and you can hunt your way down to someplace that's near where you are. Find someone in New Thought that you can talk to. I have people that email me, and sometimes we even have phone conferences. But don't allow your poor, bad habits that have kept you in bondage, and beliefs are habits. Don't let it pull you back in. Don't let it convince you that you can't, because you can. You have a bigger God. And Holmes says, we continuously are drawn into situations or circumstances, sometimes against our objective will, but seldom against our unconscious willing. The subconscious mind, man, it lives there, and it owns all that stuff that, we want to do housekeeping on. In one of Holmes's books, or maybe it was a program that I listened to years ago, he talks about the mind being like our living room in our home, and we are going to eliminate or remodel, and clear out all the old furniture that doesn't serve us and get rid of it. And we're going to bring in new, fresh, life-affirming, if you will, furniture and designs. but it's work, and we got to work at it. You know, there is no such thing as a professional athlete, or even at a college level athlete, or even at a high school level athlete, that ever becomes good at their particular event without continuous training. And we need to continuous train. We need to be with like-minded people. Show up Sunday at your local center. It's important. It's important to the other people. It's important to you. Find someone that can be part of a support team, or attend classes, whatever it is. But, you know, continuously keep yourself immersed in, associated with, and a user of these tools, and your life will change. And we are continuously being drawn into situations or circumstances. Don't let it be against our conscious objective will. Don't let the bondage, the chains, the shackles of our subconscious beliefs pull us back. We can overcome, if you will. He says the mind is a magnet, and we attract what with that we identify ourselves. That what we identify ourselves with concept, again, goes back to, do you see yourself as an overcomer? Do you see yourself as an achiever? Do you self-define as someone that can meet life's challenges and find a way through, around, over, or just not let that be an influence in your life? It doesn't have to affect you. Or do you see yourself being subject to? Are you a victim of? In truth, there are no victims in life. There are only believers in victimhood. Break that belief, break that bondage, move out, move beyond. It's awesome when you do, and you can do that. He says, as we practice, okay, as we will learn that if we make the experiment that one kind of thought can neutralize another, we can rub out the negative thoughts. And that's one of the tools that we begin to use as we put this into practice. Affirmations are good for that. Daily prayer practice is good for that. Daily meditation practice is good for that. These are all part of our toolbox. On the front page, or the front cover of the paperback copies of The Science of Mind, it says a philosophy of faith, a way of living. That's not just a concept to be put on the front of a book. It really is, it is a clarion call to each of us. It is a philosophy that as we learn and we bring faith to what we learn, it becomes a way of living. But that metamorphosis, as it becomes a way of living, is in our doing, is in our practice, is in our daily working the program, if you will. And in those times, when maybe life seems to be a little more overwhelming than what we feel we can deal with, even though that's not true, because you do have a bigger God, pick up the phone. Local centers have prayer practitioners that can pray for you, do affirmative treatment. Of course, there's an expectation that you also will do that. Associate with, be around, pick up a friend, a phone, and call a friend, someone that is part of your local center. Be a part of it. You know, today's world, particularly in the United States, there's been a movement away from, being spiritually involved in one's life. A lot of people say that they believe, they have a spiritual belief, but not as many people participate in it in an active way. We are active beings. We're meant to participate in life on an active level. You are gifted, as I said at the beginning of this particular segment, and most times you are gifted with special gifts that are unique to you, that as you were created in the image, in the nature of the divine, you were gifted with these gifts, the potential to express them, but you've got to claim them. You've got to make that connection, and then you've got to put them into practice. And as you do, you will begin to experience life at a higher, greater degree of livingness. That's what Judge Thomas Tord said many years ago in his Edinburgh and Doré lectures. We are purposed to live at a higher, greater degree of livingness. We do that by putting into practice the tools that we have that allow us to express the gifts that live and exist within us in potential. We do that through our thought, our thinking processes. That's what this chapter is about. He says, he goes on to say, if something within you says, I'm unhappy this morning, you can deny this statement and affirm its opposite. That's what I said earlier. Don't let those types of thoughts go by unchecked, unrecognized. At first, it may be a little bit of a struggle to develop a new habit, a new way of thinking, but you can do that. There's a great tool out there, and it's I believe if you Google complaint-free world, you'll find the link that will take you to. It was a church back in the Midwest somewhere, and they came up with this idea. They created these wristbands, and you put the wristband on one wrist, and if you catch yourself thinking a negative thought or a complaint, you have to take it off and put it on the other wrist. And it can stay on that other wrist until you come up with another complaint thought, and then it has to go back over. And the goal is to achieve 21 days of a complaint-free consciousness. And the kicker to this, the key to this is, if you get to day 20 and you allow yourself to express a complaint, day 1 starts all over. It has to be 21 continuous days of no complaints. You do that, and you begin to change the habit patterns in your mind. But you can do that for other things too. You can do it for affirming prosperity versus accepting limitation in your life or relationship. If you are someone who's living life and wishing that you had more friends in life, you can create within yourself the fertile ground for friendship to develop. But you got to go there. You got to do that. Speaking of going there and doing that, we're going to take our next commercial break, and I'll see you when we come back.
Are you thinking of selling your home? Since 2004, the Souza Group, brokered by eXp Realty, has specialized in premier property listings and sales located in the Clovis Unified and North Fresno markets. The Souza Group will do their best to exceed your expectations. Visit clovisunifiedhomes.com. If your home floods, who will you call? When your house springs a leak, it's time to call Clean Master Emergency Flood Service at 559-213-9430. Clean Master will be there in 60 minutes to start fixing your home. And Clean Master bills your insurance directly, saving you the hassle because you've got enough to worry about. Clean Master also offers carpet and upholstery cleaning, carpet repair, pet odor removal, and more. Remember, Clean Master Emergency Flood Service. 559-213-9430 and visit cleanmasterflood.com. Did you know most hair and beauty salons in the Central Valley are not disposing of their chemicals correctly? Partner with us today to become an eco-friendly salon. Visit us online at greenbeautywaste.com. Our phone number is 559-367-7206. And be sure to visit us on Instagram and Facebook at Green Beauty Waste. Pour yourself a glass of Crybaby wine available at the market and Sam's Italian Deli. And remember to ask for Crybaby wine at your favorite restaurant.
We forget about the higher good of food, right? You're growing a product that people enjoy really all over the world. I mean, how does that make you feel?
I think about that all the time. I think about the families sitting around a table, enjoying a meal. I just see that what we do brings families together.
I mean, we're blessed. We're in paradise for food.
The current Kern family of the Kern Family Farm invites you to eat delicious, nutritious, organic produce available at the Gnarly Carrot, located at 32954 Road 222 in North Fork, California. The Gnarly Carrot is a local, natural, seasonally changing market offering a wide range of products from local Central Valley vendors. Get your caffeine fix, grab a smoothie, and support small businesses. Learn more at kernfamilyfarm.com and visit the Gnarly Carrot today. Doctor in Sukasa allows you to connect with your doctor when you need a quick treatment. Avoid a trip to a medical clinic or emergency room and connect by video with your doctor from your home, work, or anywhere. Just go to drinsukasa.com on your phone, tablet, or computer. Dr. in Sukasa provides quality care that is convenient, bilingual, and affordable, so you are never left without access to health care. Visit drinsukasa.com today.
Highlights, balayage, color, extensions, cuts, pure Brazilian blowouts, treatments. Contact Jordan Myers at Hair by Jordan.
Welcome back to New Thought Talk. So we're going through, we're in chapter 4 of this thing called Life by Dr. Ernest Holmes. We're talking about thoughts and the creative effect that they have on the life that we express. We're told that we're created in the image and likeness of God, the nature of God, if you will. And God's sole nature is to be creative. We are also creative. But most of the time what we create we're not always happy with because it's done unto us as we believe. We've just failed to believe that. So Holmes goes on, he says, we cannot live without God. Every attempt to do this has failed. No fear can remain where faith holds sway. Faith is a powerful tool. But faith is combined with belief in the acceptance of truth, regardless of what our five senses tell us. When we live our life based on what our five senses tell us, we have chosen to live our life tied to what the material world tells us is so. When we choose to step out of that and live beyond what the five senses tell us, we begin to open up within ourselves this powerful force, this oneness. We talk about it as oneness. We talk about unity. And the idea of oneness and unity is that, the divine source, first cause, God, is the soul of all that exists. It's singular. There is no other than God. When we seek to align ourselves in consciousness, in our beliefs, with a faith, understanding, and belief in this first cause, God. Remember I talked the segment past about how we compartmentalize various aspects of our life, thinking that what we do in one compartment of our life has little or no effect on the rest of our life. And it's not true. You can't, you can go to page 285 in the textbook, and Holmes talks about you can't have faith in hatred. And that's what we do when we hate someone. We have faith in our hatred. You can't hate and expect God to respond in a positive manner when you're seeking to have God express in your life in a positive manner. You gotta get rid of the hate. Fear, doubt, worry, limiting beliefs, all these things that are the antithesis of the sole expresser of all that is and beyond that we call God. We also call it love. We have to bring ourselves to that table if we want to participate in the feast, if you will. The feast is readily available to us, but we got to bring ourselves to that table. It means we got to let go of stuff. We got to open our entire beingness to a divine principle that says that there is oneness, a unity. That doesn't mean that we have to be subject to someone's issues, if you will, whether they be violent or of a violent nature or whatever else. We can put up healthy boundaries. But healthy boundaries are boundaries that we establish with love. And we love what's on the other side of those boundaries. We just don't allow it to express itself in a negative way upon us. And you see, as we begin to do these things, what are we doing? We're moving out of that space of being in bondage. We're moving out of that space of being a victim, and we're moving into a space of being massively powerful in our life. And I don't use the word massively just offhand. There's a greater truth to that. And people that take the time to put these truth principles into practice in their life, they reap the rewards, they reap the benefits. But again, going back to Emmett Fox, there is no such thing as undemonstrated understanding. As you are a participant in your life seeking to treat for more abundance or prosperity, or if you're working with practitioners or New Thought ministers of any particular New Thought sect, don't allow yourself to be subject to someone else's blindness. You know, another teaching of Jesus was that when the blind lead the blind, they both basically fall off the cliff. If someone says that they are a practitioner and yet their life is in disarray, they may have taken the various classes, they may have passed the tests, but the ultimate test, the final test, is how life expresses through them in their life. There's one life. That life is God. As we align ourselves with that, as we embody that in our life, as we understand it in our life, it will express. But we are limited by our understanding. So he says, we cannot live without God. Every attempt to do this has failed. No fear can remain where faith holds sway. Faith reunites us with the original creative spirit, with God, with the source of all that is. Through our faith in it, our belief in it, our acceptance of it, and our embodiment of that faith and belief and acceptance in our day-to-day life experience expression, and our absolute commitment to not allowing limitation on any way, on any level, in any way, hold sway in our conscious thinking. And ultimately, as we begin to form those new and more life-affirming habits, that will change, will remove from our subjective mind those things that have helped to hold us in a bondage that we didn't even realize that we had done to ourselves. He says you must have a faith in something greater than your previous experiences. You must bind yourself back in faith to the God principle that is within you. You have a bigger God. Own it, embody it, claim it, and then seek to live it in all ways. You know, the prayer of protection, and oftentimes I do it at the end of the show, says, the love of God surrounds you, or the love of God enfolds you, the light of God enfolds you, the love of God surrounds you, whatever. The power of God protects you. The presence of God watches over you. Wherever you are, God is there and all is well. Wherever you are. It's not wherever you and somebody else is. It's not wherever you are and your minister is. It's wherever you are. And God is there. And if God's there, all is well. At the level of your belief in that bigger God than whatever life can bring at you. He says, don't be afraid of being spiritual. Since earliest history, men have felt the presence of life of God. And it's very interesting. If you ever have the opportunity to study the history of the Hebrews, their relationship with their God Yahweh, from the early days when Yahweh was a tribal war god, and how their understanding of their relationship to God and what God was and how God expressed, how that evolved, and their understanding and relationship to the individual and what the individual was and how that understanding evolved until you get to that time when Jesus began to walk the face of the earth and teach. And God was no longer the God that walked through the garden with anthropomorphic weaknesses of anger and so on, but God was spirit, and we worship God in spirit. That we find God at the center of our being, that it's done unto us as we believe, that when we turn away from hatred, when we turn the other cheek, if you will, we open ourselves up to love. We love our neighbors as ourselves. We love God with all that we are. These were things that he taught. And as he taught those things, he told those that he taught that which he did, they could do, and more. And there was a time, so the Bible says, that after the passing of Jesus, that his apostles continued to heal. Think about it. The genesis of the new thought, spiritual reality in this life that we're expressing now was as a healing, started out as a healing philosophy. If you want to trace it back to Quimby, you want to move from Quimby to the various early teachers, the founders of the new thought movement, healing was what it was about. But they discovered that in the healing process, that as you sought to demonstrate healing in your life, as you brought yourself into alignment, as you brought yourself into an understanding of the teachings of this man they called the master teacher, that other things came along with it, that there were qualities in the individual that were expressed, that there was a realization that limitation is more of a state of mind than a state of materiality, that relationship had everything to do with the individual and really nothing to do with the people that were around that individual. Because as you change your inner beingness, so the people that surround you change also. He says, don't be afraid to be spiritual, okay? Don't be afraid. He says, learn to clear your thought of everything that obstructs your belief in the goodness and the givingness of life. And life with a capital L, he's talking about God. Any thoughts that you hold, that you allow through your mind of a limiting nature, of a poverty nature, of a nature that is not in alignment with God. If we are created in the nature of God, the likeness and the image, then when we have thoughts, when we allow thoughts to go through our mind that are not in alignment with God, then they're also not in alignment with us, which means they weaken us, they hold us in bondage, they keep us from progressing, from moving forward, from experiencing life at the level that we should. He says, we shall not be less practical when we put this into practice because we are more spiritual. We should deepen our faith and increase our vision. Let us build around us a wall of spiritual realization and therein dwell. Good walls make good boundaries. There's a lot going on in the world today. Talk about walls. We're not talking about that kind of concept. We're talking about healthy boundaries for each and every one of us. But if you happen to be caught up in just in that chaotic mix of all sorts of stuff, plant your flag for God within your heart. Plant that flag within your mind and your way of thinking for alignment, for good. Each of us have our own mountains that we have to climb within our thinking, our beingness. But every one of us have the means by which we can climb those mountains. But we have to recognize that. It's not like asking. We don't ask for the good that's ours. We recognize. And in that recognition, we can make a claim upon it. That's our journey. That's our path. He says, he talks about using various affirmations and denials as we seek to direct our thought, okay? He addresses evil, he says, is either a misuse of this power or a misunderstanding of it. Ultimately, evil, and evil is a very small word with a very huge meaning. Evil can mean nothing more than our inability to live in financial abundance, or it can mean greater things in the world that limit us. We can make choices. Evil doesn't exist as an existing beingness or thing. It exists as consciousness that has separated itself from a realization of the divine and the divine's gift and good, of the nature of God's givingness. As we separate ourselves out, we open ourselves up to experience it. Yes, there are people in the world, but we don't have to play in that ballpark, if you will. We recognize it. We put up boundaries. The more we do for ourselves, the more we do for the world. As I said earlier in the show, spirituality in this country has kind of diminished in so far as individuals participating in a spiritual practice. I call on you, challenge you to change that for yourself, because as you do, like I said, you will change yourself, but you'll also change the world. New thought, science of mind and spirit. This is our time. There is a concept of oneness, of unity. And next week when we revisit this, we finish off chapter 4, we're going to spend a little more time on this concept of oneness, of unity, and the importance that it is in our life, okay? The importance that it is, that way of thinking, in our ability to demonstrate in our life. So I'm running short of time. I'm going to have to call it at this point. Thank you for being with me today. I hope you've enjoyed, that you've learned, you've got some stuff. Pick up a copy of this thing called Life by Dr. Holmes. You can get it through Amazon, or through if you're part of a CSL center or any church that has a bookstore. It's available. Read it. Put it into practice. I'll see you next week. As you go through the week, know that the light of God surrounds you, the love of God enfolds you, the power of God protects you, and the presence of God watches over you. Wherever you are, God is there. Have a great and blessed, prosperous week. You can email me if you want. I do respond, and I'll see you next week. Bye.